This is the Carricker and Smallman podcast, powered by I Promise. Now here's Carricker and Smallman.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Carricker and Smallman on 101 ESPN at 7:01. Your time check brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers, an officially licensed Rolex jeweler. Michelle Smallman, Randy Carricker. Great to have you with us this morning until 10 o'clock on a morning after the Blues did not play due to the riots in Minnesota, but the Cardinals did play and lost, Michelle, their third in a row, 5-2 to the Washington Nationals. Not great.
Not great. Still early.
Oh, yeah, plenty of time.
Plenty of time, but not the outcome you want, obviously.
It doesn't seem like they've played 10 games already, does it?
No, it seems like they've played 4, maybe. Yeah. It's flying by already. But that's the point, right? What do you always say? It gets late early?
It sure does. Yeah, Yogi Berra-ism.
Yogi Berra-ism, because we're already 10 games in.
Yeah. So Eric Fetty started for the
no,
Nationals.
Please don't.
So I sent Michelle and Dan a text. And it was, so Shanae, who does the afternoon show at ESPN Radio, if you didn't hear it yesterday, I suggested an afternoon show on ESPN with Eric Fetty and Shanae, and it'd be called Fetty Shanae.
It doesn't roll off the tongue as much as you want it to.
Fettuccine? So,
Fettuccine.
But both Michelle and Dan just ripped me. So they said, no, Randy, no.
No, Randy, no. But I said there's a rapper named Fetty Wap. If you're going to go there, you can find, I think, it probably an easier mix. I don't know how, but it just seems like fettuccine. You're really pushing here.
Darn it. Okay.
I appreciate the creativity, though, Randy.
Appreciate that. The Cardinals did fall 5-2, and Eric Fetty was not involved in the decision. Kyle Finnegan got the win. John Gant took the loss. And there were some good things that came out of this game, Michelle, wouldn't you say?
Sure.
Matt Carpenter getting his first hit of the year.
Go ahead. I had a feeling we were going to go there. I was pumped for him. I texted you, MARP, exclamation point.
Absolutely.
I was excited.
Yeah. He was the Cardinals starting second baseman last night. And this is something that we'll talk about later, but Tommy Edman started in right field, and that might be his spot. And MARP gets his first hit of the season with a bunt.
Yeah, I'm just glad to get one on the board. You know, sometimes that first one's the hardest one. It was for me, obviously, at this point. But, you know, more importantly, it scored a run for us, and we were able to get in scoring position for Tommy, who drove in a big run. At the time, you know, the starter, Fetty, was throwing the ball pretty well. So it was, you know, a much-needed opportunity that came up, and I'll just try to take advantage of it.
Edman had driven in the run after John Gant sacrificed Carpenter over to tie the game at 1 apiece, and then the Nationals took the lead again by Kyle Schwarber doubling home Juan Soto in the 6th, so it was a 2-1 game after Castro fly ball. Schwarber moved to third, and Bell scored to make it 3-1. But the Cardinals, Michelle, did have their opportunities, especially in the bottom of the 7th inning, but they just couldn't get over the top, and they lost it 5-2.
Yeah, they definitely had their opportunities, and circling back to Matt Carpenter, Randy, maybe this opens the floodgates. Maybe this is what Mike Schultz was talking about, and we're about to see a bountiful harvest come through.
I'm looking forward to it.
I am too, but sometimes it only takes one, right? Get the pressure off, and then you can start rolling, because he's going to play.
Yeah, he looks like he's going to be the guy maybe at second base for at least a good amount of time for the foreseeable future, because Tommy Edman is producing offensively, and against right-handed pitching, they're going to give MARP his opportunities. Mm-hmm. Now, he did not get off to the best start in the world last night, but the key was for him getting on base and getting that hit after going 0 for 12 to start the season.
I mean, it feels good. I mean, you know, anytime you're going through a stretch where you're searching for that first hit, it can be challenging, especially, you know, making a lot of hard outs. You know, my teammates have been, you know, just great, you know, picking me up, trying to keep me positive, and, you know, keeping me in a good frame of mind. So it was fun to see the excitement, and I know they probably weren't excited as I was, but it was good.
And I'm glad that his teammates are vocally telling him, hey, stick with it because he's a likable guy. He's a guy that is a very good teammate, and his teammates want him to succeed. And if he listens to the outside noise, if he listens to us, for example, he's not going to get that positive reinforcement.
I can't imagine he would want to listen to sports talk radio or check his mentions. That just seems like a losing battle for him because we live in the immediacy of things and we have to react to a game scenario. We look at strictly results, and when it's 0 for 12, that's not great, especially when it's coming off the same trends the year and a little bit before that prior. But I'm so happy for him that he did get that, and seems like he's getting positive reinforcements everywhere from his teammates, from his manager. So hopefully he can block everything out, and this is a sigh of relief for him, and he can start to get it rolling.
Now, Michelle, it was not a clean, perfect game for the manager, Mike Schilt. Bottom of the fifth inning, 1-1 game. One out, Carpenter walks, Justin Williams walks. And Mike Schilt has to make the decision, do I hit for John Gant, or do I try to get him to bunt and give me another inning? What Schilt decided was to eschew the pinch hitter and sacrifice with Gant to bring Edman to the plate. Did that, and Gant did successfully sacrifice Carpenter to third, Williams to second, but Tommy Edman grounded out. Looking back, Schilt was not really happy with his decision.
No, tonight that was a spot. That was a spot for Cabby in the sixth, and Gio could go from there, and then Alex after that. They're fresh. We've had to pitch some guys out of place prior to today. Today wasn't that day. Today was me not doing a good enough job for our club to put him in position. My job is to put him in position to players win games, managers avoid it, losing games, and I didn't do my part today in that decision.
I think he's beating himself up a little bit here because, A, there's no guarantee that whoever you brought off the bench, that's not a really productive hitter at the moment, was going to succeed. And the Cardinals do need to get more innings out of their starting pitchers. Their bullpen has been overworked, and it's going to get burned out. So getting another inning out of Gant certainly would have worked to their advantage. And then you save Cabrera for a later inning.
That's what my thought process was at that point, is that you do need to get more innings out of your starter. And you're right, it's not like there's that one guy you can really feel that confident in coming off of the bench. But Mike Schilt is always going to do this. Yep. He always takes the blame. He always defers to himself and his decision-making rather than pointing to the player. So I'm not surprised he did it there as well.
Same two teams tonight, and it's a puffy vest giveaway at the ballpark as the Cardinals take on the Nationals.
I was looking at tickets last night, Randy, because I got to get my dad and I to the ballpark soon to go to a game. The giveaways are great.
Fantastic.
There are some great giveaways coming up right now. And as you mentioned, puffy vest tonight. I believe there's a Jack Buck statue or something coming up soon.
Yeah.
So people going to the ballpark are going to walk away with something good.
The Blues were scheduled to play last night in Minnesota, but because of another police shooting and the projection of riots, which did occur, the Blues game against the Wild, the Timberwolves game, and the Twins game were all postponed. And so Minnesota will try to get as close to back to normal as they possibly can. And obviously this is a national issue. It's not something that's indigenous to Minnesota at the moment. But it does affect sports in myriad ways, and one of them is that we miss out on games. That game has been rescheduled for May 12th. It'll be the last game of the season for the Blues.
The reschedule of the reschedule?
Yeah, right.
And it's the third time this season that the Blues were ready to play hockey in an opposing city, and then the game was postponed for one reason or another. And we're going to talk to David Perron later in the show. I wonder how that affects the guys, because you're traveling, you're doing your game day routine, you're in another city, and then you don't play.
Has any team in any sport ever had more postponements for different reasons? You've got this last night. You've got the Avalanche the Kings not being able to get home because of snow in Denver.
Oh, yeah.
You've got the COVID issues that they've dealt with. It's been a weird year.
Yeah, it has been a weird year.
And thank you, Colorado Avalanche, for beating the Coyotes last night. So now the Blues have 2 games in hand and a 1-point lead over Arizona, and they'll see Arizona later on this week. And San Jose also lost to Anaheim. So it was all in all, even though the Blues didn't play, a good night for them.
Didn't even have to play, and it was a productive night.
Yeah, so we'll take that. For the Chiefs, we heard right before the Super Bowl about Britt Reed and the accident that he had that involved alcohol. And now he has been charged with felony DWI after hitting a vehicle that left a 5-year-old girl critically injured and paralyzed. If convicted, Britt Reed, Andy Reid's son, would face a maximum sentence of 7 years in prison.
Awful story.
Terrible.
Awful story. And kind of surprised it took this long for him to be charged.
Yeah, kind of weird, isn't it? This was the beginning of February, so
Yeah.
you had all of February and all of March and part of April. It took 2.5 months for him to be charged. I wonder what the holdup was.
Yeah, I don't know, but we were getting so many stories and updates about the girl who was injured in the crash, and everyone knew that it was Britt Reed that was the cause of it, and it just seemed like the story had been out there for a while, so I'm just kind of surprised that the news is coming down now.
And finally, Michelle, Julian Edelman, entertaining fella, pretty good receiver, okay receiver. He retired yesterday after being released by the Patriots. He was 34. He ended a 12-year career. And people are suggesting somehow, some way, that Julian Edelman is a Pro Football Hall of Famer. And I'm suggesting that he's not. He obviously was a guy that was the beneficiary of playing on really good teams. And because of that, he has more catches for more yards in postseason play than anybody else. Really good. That part of it is good. During the regular season, which is really where Hall of Famers are made, he has 620 career catches for 6,822 yards and 41 touchdowns. Ricky Proehl has more catches and more receptions for more touchdowns than that. He played in 3 Super Bowls. Heck, Ricky Proehl actually did more to help his teams win Super Bowls than Julian Edelman did. His defenses just couldn't hold up, whether it was the Rams in 2001 or the Panthers in 2003. Both games, he scored the tying touchdown for the Rams in Super Bowl 36, and then Super Bowl 38 puts the Panthers ahead with a catch in the last minute before Brady brought the Patriots, who did not have Julian Edelman at the time, back. So I would argue that Ricky Proehl is a better Hall of Fame candidate than Julian Edelman. I would argue that Gary Clark is a better Hall of Fame candidate than Julian Edelman. Gary Clark, 699 catches to Edelman's 620, 10,856 yards to 6,822, 65 touchdowns to 41. Clark played on 2 Super Bowl teams. He was a sensational player, a great postseason player. So Gary Clark over Julian Edelman. And by the way, I didn't even include Torrey Holt because
of course.
That is comparing apples to Teslas. It's, I mean,
apples to Teslas?
There is, you couldn't get a more disparate comparison that you try to make between Julian Edelman and Torrey Holt, because Torrey Holt was in a different echelon altogether.
Yeah, Torrey Holt, Hall of Famer.
Torrey Holt's Hall of Famer.
Waiting in line.
Yeah, Julian Edelman, nice career, but he's just a guy.
I think, though, Randy, we see Julian Edelman in the postseason all the time. We see the big moments, and that's what sticks. So a lot of people, when they talk about Hall of Famers, they think about Julian Edelman connected to championships, and they think about him connected to Brady and connected to Belichick. And so that's why the question gets brought up.
And the writers will ask the question. They'll say, okay, well, he is connected to Brady and Belichick. What would have happened if he would have been drafted by the Bears?
What would have happened if Wes Welker didn't play there?
Yep.
We saw Danny Amendola be a guy here and have big postseason moments in New England, too. Those two made a lot of people around them better players.
Yeah. And none of those guys, none of them are Hall of Famers.
Right.
That's Michelle. I'm Randy. Coming up, get your text into the Air Comfort Service text line 65780. It's Tuesday, so it's time for a game of What's Better on 101 ESPN.
We're right back to the Carricker and Smallman podcast on 101 ESPN.
Let's play a little game of What's Better here on 101 ESPN. Michelle Smallman, Randy Carricker, Emily Butcher is here. Your text, 65780. That's the number for the Air Comfort Service text line. Emily, what do you got for us?
From the 314, what's better, ranch or blue cheese?
It's ranch all the way, every day, 100% of the time. What do they say? Every day, twice on Sunday? Ranch all the way.
Every day that ends in Y?
Yes, exactly. I'm not a blue cheese fan, Michelle.
Would anyone pick blue cheese over ranch? Not likely.
No, I don't think any sensible person would. Now, somebody that might be listening that just isn't sensible might do that. But ranch is the play on so many different levels because ranch is so versatile. I mean, they say, do you want ranch with your fries? Do you want ranch with your wings? Nobody says you want blue cheese on your fries. I guess some people get blue cheese on their wings. Salad, It's ranch all the time.
You're right. You can put ranch on so many different things.
Burgers?
It's like the sixth man of the year when it comes to condiments.
It is.
Always showing up to deliver, no matter what the space. You're right. You can put it on a burger, fries, obviously wings. If you're eating chicken, you can put ranch on your chicken.
Chicken tenders.
Yeah,
Yep.
there's so many options here.
Yeah. Great analogy. Sixth man of the year. I love that.
It is.
From the 314, what's better, the Cardinals outfield or the Pirates outfield?
Oh, this is a good question. I would say that Dylan Carlson is probably the best prospect. Ultimately, I think it'll be because of Carlson, them. But even though he's only hitting like 157, I think if I were going to take an outfielder from the six that start for the teams, I would go with Gregory Polanco.
But how much of a bummer is it that you have to compare the two?
It's a bummer. This is serious business here.
Because we talked about the outfield struggles, but when you put it in comparison to the Pirates, that's not a great feeling.
No. Their outfield, Brian Reynolds, Dustin Fowler, and Gregory Polanco, a couple of relative unknowns. And I would suggest that for most baseball fans, all of the Cardinal outfielders are unknowns. Not to us, but if you ask somebody in Pittsburgh who's the Cardinal outfield, they don't know who Dylan Carlson is.
No, you're right. They likely don't.
No, and they certainly don't know who Austin Dean or Justin Williams are. I had trouble thinking of his name right there. So, yeah, I would say I would go with the Pirates because of Polanco at the moment.
Wow.
From the 618, what's better on a burger, pulled pork or an egg?
I like a fried egg on a burger now and then. I don't know that I've ever had pulled pork on a burger before. It sounds interesting, but because I've had it and because I kind of like it, I go with the fried egg.
So are we talking pulled pork as a sandwich?
If it's a pulled pork sandwich, then you go with the pulled pork sandwich over the burger with the egg on top.
People are putting a hamburger patty and then pulled pork on top of it. Is that what we're talking about here?
That's what it sounds like.
The question is, what's better on a burger?
On a burger.
Pulled pork or an egg?
Well, then I'm going egg because the patty and pulled pork combo feels like a lot.
Well,
Feels like we're doing too much.
I have had a burger at Stacked with brisket on it, and it was phenomenal.
But was there a patty on
Yes.
it? Oh, okay.
Yes.
What's the most outrageous burger you've ever had?
Outrageous as in it's great, or outrageous as in there's a lot on it?
Yeah, stuff that's on it.
I don't know if I've had many outrageous burgers. I'm kind of a classic burger girl. Just give me a patty with some cheese, ketchup, mustard, pickle, maybe lettuce and tomato for getting wild.
That's if you're getting wild. I am generally that way. I'm, for the most part, very basic. But there's a place in Scottsdale called Rehab Burger Therapy, which is sensational. And if you just go to their website and check out some of the different burgers that they have, like you got, here we go. You've got the Porkster Burger, your burger grilled to order, then covered in Rehab's own barbecue, pulled pork, and cheddar cheese. So there's one with, and I get the Hangover Burger, which has fried egg, bacon, Colby Jack cheese, and Hatch green chili. It's really good. But they also have one with, here, I like this one a lot. This is the PB&J Bacon Burger. It's got peanut butter, grape jelly, bacon, and sriracha sauce.
And sriracha?
Yep, and it's really good. It's
Interesting.
awesome. Yeah. So I like an outrageous burger now and then with weird stuff on it.
Wouldn't you love it if a doctor told you the type of therapy you needed was burger rehab therapy?
Wouldn't that be awesome? Here's what you need to do. What you need to do is you need to go to this place where they have all kinds of weird burgers. And you can't just pick out one burger and have that every day. You have to pick out a different burger every day. And that's the only way we're going to be able to cure you.
Yeah, you hurt your shoulder, burger rehab therapy.
Yeah.
That's what we need.
How about the ones that the Grizzlies used to sell with the Krispy Kreme donuts?
I had one of those.
As the buns.
Yeah, that was really interesting.
Those are very tasty, but you take one bite of that and your pulse starts to quicken.
Oh man, I can't eat those.
No, I had just a bite.
You can only do one bite.
Yeah, there's no doubt. How about this one? Let me give you one more. This is the Nacho Taco Burger. Burger grilled to order, blanketed in cheddar, topped with house-made taco meat, shredded lettuce, nacho Doritos, and a dollop of sour cream.
It sounds messy.
Yeah, it is, but I like it. I don't mind messy for a burger.
Yeah,
right.
but I want to be able to hold it in my hands. I don't want to have to eat it with a fork. That sounds like you take one bite and everything's going everywhere, and then there's a cleanup on aisle 5. I don't need that.
Do you guys ever have a commercial that you see and you wind up singing the song all day long?
Yes.
Like,
Scoop,
do a
there it
dollop,
is.
do a dollop. Have you ever done that?
Yes,
Is it
and
sour
now
cream?
I'm going to
Yep.
all day. Thank
Sorry.
you, Randy.
Sorry.
Scoop, there it is.
Exactly.
In my head, 25-8. From the 636, I was at Busch Stadium when Ray Lankford hit for the cycle. What's better, witnessing someone hit for the cycle or witnessing a no-hitter?
The cycle is actually a more rare occurrence in baseball. I would say seeing somebody hit for the cycle in person. I saw Willie McGee hit for the cycle in the Sandberg game in June of
cool.
'84. The Cardinals lost, but that's the only time I've ever seen a cycle in person.
I think I might go with a no-hitter. Either one would be outstanding, but the no-hitter, I imagine I'd be on the edge of my seat more during the game.
Oh, Michael Wacha, his rookie year, 2013, against the Nationals, went 8 2/3. And I was at the Sunday afternoon. No, I was at the '83 Bob Forsch one. That was a night game. I was not at the '77 one. Cloudy afternoon. I was listening on the radio, but I was at the one in '83. And that's the only no-hitter I've ever seen in person.
Really?
Yeah.
And was it great?
It was awesome. Yeah. You are on the edge of your seat. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
From the 636, what's better, seeing Yachty and Waino together again or Goldie and Arenado on the corners?
I'm going to go Goldie and Arenado on the corners. Love, love, love seeing Waino and Yachty together again. But I've seen a lot of that
There you go.
during my lifetime here in St. Louis. And seeing Gold and Arenado together is like a beautiful new relationship we're watching blossom.
Yeah, I'm with you. As much as I like seeing Yachty and Waino back together, I think that seeing the new guys and having one of the best players in baseball, one of the 5 best players in baseball on our side, having Arenado at third, pretty cool.
From the 314, what's better, a perfectly cooked steak or perfectly cooked ribs?
Perfectly cooked steak. Sorry, ribs people.
Yeah, because I think if you had a bad steak, you know how bad it can be. Whereas ribs, yeah, of course you want them to fall off the bone, but they're still good. Where steak can be super tough.
Yeah. The perfect rib, by the way, not human, the perfectly cooked rib is a rare occurrence. It just doesn't happen very often. I really have such respect for people that barbecue and have the patience to go low and slow and come up with the perfect ribs. So I give them a ton of credit. But for me personally, I'm always going with the steak. There we go. Thanks, Emily.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for your text to the Air Comfort Service text line, 65780. Next up, yesterday was the NHL trade deadline. A lot of teams made a lot of moves, but not your St. Louis Blues. What do you think? That's next on 101 ESPN.
We're right back to the Carricker and Smallman podcast on 101 ESPN.
It turned out to be a busy deadline in the National Hockey League. In the Honda West Division, Colorado got Carl Soderberg back. They reacquired him. They'd had him previously. Got him from Chicago for Josh Dickinson and Ryder Rolston. That's a move that is generally, Michelle, made to try to succeed in the playoffs. They've got the best record in the league. Colorado does. They're going to make the playoffs, and they're trying to win. Vegas got Matthias Janmark from the Blackhawks as well. They gave up a second-round pick and a third-round pick, and the Sharks took on a little bit of salary so that and they get a fifth-round pick just for taking on salary. The Blues are up against the cap and obviously had some needs, but decided not to make a move. And I think the way things are going, that's a smart move on the part of the Blues. I don't know that making a move and giving up a pick was going to make them good enough to win the Stanley Cup so much better that you say, okay, that's going to put us over the top. And I think that's the kind of move you're trying to make.
Right. And I'm sure Doug Armstrong did his due diligence and looked at every possible angle and every possible player that was available. And I think the fact that there probably wasn't an obvious answer that was out there based on the limitations you just described. I also think the team going on a bit of a winning streak here probably played into the fact that you might not want to disrupt the chemistry that you're seeing. The one person that I think a lot lot of people looked at as potentially being vulnerable in this situation is Mike Hoffman, and he responded. Now let's see if he can carry that, moving forward. But I'm totally fine with the Blues not making a move right now because I didn't see one obvious move out there that would definitely make them better.
I don't know, and I say this with all due respect, but when your coach benches you for back-to-back games because he's having trouble motivating you, and he says, hey, I just need him to play hard. When you've got 15 games left in the season and you fall out of the playoff race, and as you fall out of the playoff race, you're benched, and then you get a job back on the team because somebody gets hurt, I'm concerned about having that guy in my lineup as I head down the stretch. Mike Hoffman is definitely a skilled player. Mm-hmm. But if the coach says, I just need him to play harder at this time, that's a real concern to me.
Of course. Yeah. If effort is the issue here, when you're fighting for a playoff spot and when your team needs you because they're coming back, players are injured, you have people coming back from injuries that need to get their feet under them, and you need to be motivated in another way, that's never a good sign.
And my other question, and we talked yesterday, Michelle, about getting a big defenseman because you just don't know what Colton Parayko is going to be able to do. Don't know if he's going to be healthy enough, and hopefully he will. He's playing better and better as the games go by. But if you don't have Parayko in the lineup, as we have seen, you really do get victimized, if you're the Blues, by the lack of size in your lineup.
You do. But he's out there and hopefully getting better and, not re-injuring himself. But I don't know. I would have loved to see them go out there and get a big body on defense. But I think Doug Armstrong probably looked at the puzzle and he didn't find a perfect fit. And I respect him for not making a move. Now, I hope that the Blues carry this energy, Randy, that we've seen from them in these past few games and breathe a sigh of relief, maybe, because I don't know what it's like during the trade deadline, if this is something players are paying attention to. And maybe the team didn't want moves to be made. I don't know how that is. We can ask David Perron when we have him later in the show. But I hope that they take this as a message that Doug Armstrong and Craig Brewery are confident in this group and that this is the group that's going to carry them to the playoffs.
And by the way, it's not like the guys that would fit what the Blues need, a guy who you can count on to come in and either A, score goals or be that big defenseman. Those guys didn't get moved except for maybe Taylor Hall. But even he said he's had a bad year. He's only scored 2 goals. And he said, I just couldn't play this year. And he mentioned himself. He said, I'm not a highly motivated guy, and he doesn't want to be the best guy on his team. He said, I wanted to go to a place where they had a bunch of good players where I could just kind of fit in and be one of the guys. That's not the kind of guy you want to get as you're trying to win a Stanley Cup. No,
and if you go out and make a move like that, you're wanting someone that's going to infuse you with some energy, someone that is going to come in and potentially shake things up. And if that's the attitude, I don't know if that's the answer.
Meanwhile, you look at Colorado, and the Blues will play the Avalanche tomorrow night. We'll have the game for you here on 101 ESPN. 62 points. They're 4 ahead of Vegas now in the division. They get a guy like Soderberg, and ever since they got past their injuries, everything has gone Colorado's way. Now, Colorado's had some great teams in the past that haven't succeeded come playoff time, but I think that they built this team to win a Stanley Cup. And one of the reasons that if I'm the Blues, I don't make a move, because if I'm really objective and fair, even though the Blues did win a Stanley Cup 2 years ago, I don't think my team is good enough to beat Colorado. If I'm being very reasonable and objective about it, I don't think my team is good enough to beat Colorado and get to the Final Four.
And you don't want to mortgage your future.
No, absolutely not. And I want picks because I want to rebuild the system too.
I also think from the Blues perspective, they're looking at a scenario if they just get in, sometimes you just get hot at the right time.
There's no doubt that you've got the randomness of the postseason. It's happened before. But again, this is I don't want to hope for randomness. That's my thing. I'm looking at both Colorado and Vegas and saying they're just better than we are this year. We've got injuries. We aren't as good as we thought we were going to be. We've lost some key experienced players. Now we're without Robert Thomas again. And it's just one of those years where things haven't gone our way. And like you say, hopefully the Blues will be able to turn it around and take advantage of the randomness of the postseason. But it's just not something that you give up a number 1 pick and say, okay, well, hopefully the randomness will take over. Because whoever you got for a number one pick wasn't going to make you better than Colorado. That's my point.
Oh, absolutely not. And I'm with you too. I think that Doug Armstrong's probably in a unique position because he hasn't necessarily seen this team be capable of everything that they're capable of yet, because they did bring in a bunch of new people. You have been dealing with so many injuries. So many things have been working against the Blues this season that if you don't think that your team is in a position to go out maybe with adding a piece here or there to win the Stanley Cup, why would you want to mortgage your future?
The thought process from the Blues Poho.
Well, JR, I would start with the goaltending. I thought that Villy didn't have his best start, and we weren't good in front of him. But ultimately, his job is to stop pucks in the Vegas game. And at 2-1, that game could have gotten away from us. I thought he made 3 or 4 fantastic saves to keep it at 2-1, and then you find a goal. And to me, that's how momentum starts. I thought Binnington not as tested nearly as much in the game before, but came back with a 1-goal game. And so hopefully our goaltending is starting to play well. I think getting Schwartz, you could just feel the collective sigh from himself and everyone when he finally got one. And it wasn't because of lack of effort, lack of opportunities. So maybe the worm is starting to turn with our goal scorers. Shen's the next guy up on that list, and Kyrou to bury one and get us really running.
And that's the thing. The word is maybe. The operative word there is maybe. The worm is starting to turn. And hopefully they do develop some momentum. But I have no problem at all. To go to the bottom line here, I have no problem at all with the Blues standing pat.
Me either. And Randy, didn't you know Jordan Binnington said the team was coming?
We're coming.
They're coming.
Yeah, so hopefully that's the case. There's the one guy that can do it for you. You don't have to make a trade if Jordan Binnington does what he did 2 years ago.
That's true. But that's not really fair to him to hope for that and bank on that.
No, it's not. That's Michelle. I'm Randy. Coming up, we've got Take It or Leave It coming your way. Get your text into the Air Comfort Service text line, 65780. Tioli is next on 101 ESPN.
We're right back to the Carricker and Smallman podcast on 101 ESPN.
All right, it's time for Take It or Leave It on 101 ESPN. Get your text into the Air Comfort Service text line, 65780. Michelle, Randy, and Emily with you. And Michelle, Larsa's in the news.
Oh, no, Randy. Gosh.
Yep.
Okay, go ahead.
As you
go
know,
ahead.
she and Malik Beasley split up. Distance an issue. The 46-year-old Larsa Pippen, former wife of Scottie Pippen, and Malik Beasley. So she's back on the market and has a picture out on her social media wearing black leather pants and a low-cut tank top, posing in front of her red $200,000 Ferrari, and has the caption, "No, I'm not lucky. I'm blessed." Take it or leave it. Nobody is more blessed by the NBA, including all the players, than Larsa Pippen.
Including all the players.
It's not luck. There's a method to her madness here. She's got a $200,000 Ferrari. She's hanging out on the beach on weekdays.
It's a pretty good life.
Yeah, it's not bad.
I'm trying to think. I'm racking my brain quickly to think if there's anyone else in the mix there.
Well, think about all the players have to work really hard to be great, rich NBA players.
And Khloe Kardashian doesn't fit the bill here because she has her own fame and her own career. Yeah. So I might have to take that, Randy.
It's impressive. Larsa.
What did you call it on Friday with Danny Mac? NBA benefits? What was it?
friends with?
Yeah, it was friends with benefits, but it was the NBA benefits, right?
Yeah.
She's certainly got the NBA benefits.
Yeah, she does. And good for her. Big house, too, by the way, that her red Ferrari is in front of.
Wow.
She's on the Insta.
She and Scotty have a ton of kids?
4, yeah.
I wonder if her kids are the ones taking these photos. Who's her photographer? That's what I want to know.
That's a good question. She has a kid that's only 2 years younger than Malik Beasley.
You are so obsessed with this.
It's great.
What if we got Larsa on the show?
I would love that.
What would you ask her? What would you want to ask her? Would you say, Larsa, I've been talking about you for months.
Yeah.
I'm a fan. Do you follow her on Instagram?
I don't follow her. I should.
You should follow her on Instagram. Then you can keep up to date with everything that she's doing.
Yeah. And literally everything she does is on Instagram.
If she's on the new Real Housewives of Miami, Randy, will you be watching?
Oh, I'll DVR it every week. Yep. You know it.
Okay, then we'll need a breakdown of Real Housewives of Miami, Larsa Pippen, Randy Carricker report.
And by the way, just checking out her Instagram now leads me to believe that she does have a photographer, that it's not necessarily her offspring that are taking the pictures.
Okay, good to know. Because that would be kind of an uncomfortable conversation to have with your kids.
Yeah, you got an 11-year-old taking a picture of you next to a pool in a string bikini, and you're 46. Yeah. Probably not cool.
Whatever. Okay, Randy, so the draft is getting near, and all of the rumors are swirling, and it seems like one of the rumors that seems pretty concrete is Mac Jones to the 49ers with the number 3 pick. They made the move to get that pick, and it seems like Mac Jones is the one that they have eyes for. Now, a lot of people wonder, what does that mean for Jimmy Garoppolo? A lot of people think that the asking price for Jimmy Garoppolo from the 49ers is a first-round pick. Now, remember, they gave up 3 first-round picks to get that number 3 spot. So it seems like they're trying to recollect something that they've lost. Take it or leave it. They're not going to get a first-round pick for Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm
going to take that. The most important ability is availability. Mm-hmm. And if the Eagles couldn't get a pick number 1 for Carson Wentz, if the Jets couldn't, although Garoppolo's played in the Super Bowl, he just hasn't played enough. He's hurt all the time. I don't think you can give up a number 1 for him.
They keep saying, Lynch and Shanahan, that they will not trade Garoppolo without significant compensation, and they point to his 22-8 record with Garoppolo as the starter since he went to San Francisco. I don't know any team out there that will covet Jimmy Garoppolo that much that they're going to give up a first-round pick for him.
And my thought is that because Garoppolo's hurt so much, they wanted somebody legit for when, not if, when he does get hurt. And Mac Jones, give him 4, 5, 6 games until Garoppolo does get hurt, and then he can take over that way. I think it's a smart move on the part of the Niners. I'd keep Garoppolo.
I would too, but it seems like they're trying to shop him. I just think the asking price is a little high.
I'm with you there.
I don't blame them for having that be where the conversation starts. I just can't see any other team out there that might be in need of a quarterback wanting to give up a first-round pick for Jimmy Garoppolo.
Now, here's another thing. How about if the number 3 pick and Jimmy Garoppolo to Green Bay for Aaron Rodgers?
Okay, lay that out one more time.
Number 3 pick overall,
yep,
and Jimmy Garoppolo to the Packers for Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, I would do it, wouldn't you? Even though it would be a short window, I would do it.
I think for both teams, it'd be really intriguing.
Because imagine Rodgers on that 49ers team. Yep. He's going home.
Yep.
Not that makes that much of a difference, but he's so motivated anyway. Imagine how motivated he would be to win it there, to add that layer to his legacy, to do it in California. Oh, that would be so fun. I would love that.
It'd be a great story. All right, Emily, what do you have for us?
From the 314, take it or leave it, you'd rather have your team barely miss the playoffs than get swept in the finals.
No.
No, I'm going to the finals.
I'm going to the finals, too.
Yep.
I want to, even though it's the heartbreak is harder, I want to at least be there.
That 2004 Cardinal team, as an example, dominant, probably the best regular season Cardinal team ever. I would much rather have had that and get swept in the World Series than have that team miss the playoffs.
Do you feel that, would you have felt that way about the Blues if they didn't win? If they went to Game 7 Stanley Cup Final in Boston and they lost, would you have wanted to go on that journey and suffer that heartbreak, or rather than miss it altogether?
I would rather have had that journey, because think about that. If you miss the playoffs that year, you were supposed to. You were in last place on January 3rd. So you say, okay, well, that's just who the Blues were that year. But to be able to do what for me, getting to Game 7, like for me, I always said, it's just as hard to get to a Super Bowl as it is to win a Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. Getting to Game 7 is practically as good as winning Game 7.
Except it's not.
It's not. Boston feels that way right now.
Right.
But like Whitey said, hey, after 85, after the Cardinals lost, the Cardinals have won 101 games. He said, I'll go to Game 7 of the World Series every single year. And I would too. I would take that bet.
I would too, but I wonder if it would have felt different because the Blues had never won. Now, if the Cardinals go to a Game 7 and they lose, we've seen so many magical moments out of the Cardinals in our lifetimes, but the Blues held such a special place in our hearts and in our sports world because they had never won. So that journey was that much more fun to go on, but if they would have lost, the heartbreak would have been so unbelievable.
It would have been bad. But here's my thing. There isn't and never will be a scenario in which missing the playoffs is better than making the playoffs.
And there were
Ever.
some great moments in the lead up to Game 7. We wouldn't have Pat Maroon. We wouldn't have Boom Boom Gunnarsson. There were so many moments that, but those would still be great. But they wouldn't sparkle as much.
No, you're right about
if they
that.
didn't have the cup.
From the 636, take it or leave it. 4-day work weeks, 3-day weekends, every week.
Take it.
Yep, I'm totally on board.
I was thinking about that the other day. This setup is so Bush League because at least one day of your weekend is not a weekend day because you're running errands, you're doing all of these tasks that you're grocery shopping, you're meal prepping. That's not a day off. You're working, you're just not getting paid. You're working to live. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I'm just thinking about our schedule, and it's not like we are digging ditches. Here.
No, I'm just talking about everyone. I'm talking about America, Randy. America.
But I think I'm just trying to debate in my mind quickly whether or not I would prefer the schedule we have or the 4-day work week with and longer days with 3 days off. And I think I would rather have the shorter days.
I don't know. I'd rather have one other full day off. Sleep in, do whatever you want.
That would be. It's a hard choice to make. But I think I kind of like our schedule. I didn't think I would, by the way, when we started it.
No, you and I both did not think we would like this. We were very concerned. But it's been good. It's been really good. But I also think that's because we found a way to put the puzzle together.
Yeah.
You know, it works for us the way that we do it.
Yep.
But I think, on the weekends, so many people out there, they have to spend at least one whole day doing all of these things that aren't leisurely.
Yeah.
It's not like they're relaxing. They're not resetting. They're chopping up veggies for the next day, or they're taking their kid to practice, or they're dropping their car off to get maintenance because they couldn't do it during the week. There's all of these things you have to do. Picking up the dry cleaning. That's not a day off.
I'm going to stick with what I got.
From the 618, take it or leave it. Kim coming back will be the spark the Cardinals need.
Oh, totally take it.
Is Kim playing in the outfield?
Well, maybe.
Oh, is that what's happening? Because unless it's a spark coming from the outfield, I don't think they're going to get a spark.
You're thinking of the wrong Kim. This is KK, Kim Kardashian.
Oh, she's coming to St. Louis?
Yep, and she's the spark they need.
Why is she coming to St. Louis?
Because she's a Cardinal fan.
She is?
You betcha she's becoming one.
Is this bulletin apparently official?
Not quite.
So I just assumed because she was married to Kanye, who's from Chicago, that she would be a Sox fan.
Divorced.
Yeah, getting divorced.
And there you go. He's a Cubs fan.
I don't know. I think he's a Sox guy.
Oh, is he?
I don't know. Stand by.
But if he's a Cubs fan, what would be the unkindest cut for him as they divorce? For her to become a Cardinal fan.
That would be great.
Yeah.
See a lot of pictures of him in a Sox jersey.
Yeah, I think he's a Sox guy.
Well, no, I'm okay with him being a Sox fan because Tony's a Sox guy.
Yeah, he threw out the first pitch at a Sox game. I'm seeing 0 Cubs and a lot of White Sox.
Okay. Yeah, he's probably from the South Side. That's cool.
I think he is.
Probably grew up a White Sox fan. All right. So okay, KK Kim it is then. So, yeah, he'll be the spark that they need in the starting rotation.
He will. He's going to be the spark.
They need one.
Okay, I hope you're right.
I hope I am, too.
I hope you're right.
Thanks, Emily.
Thank you.
And thanks for your text to the Air Comfort Service text line 65780. Last night, did we see perfect evidence of why baseball doesn't need the DH? That's coming your way on 101 ESPN.
We're right back to the Carricker and Smallman podcast on 101 ESPN.
in St. Louis. Your time check brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers, an officially licensed Rolex jeweler. It's Carricker and Smallman, Michelle and Randy with you. And last night, Michelle, was one of those games where I watch and I try to manage along with the manager. And I like the thought process that goes into not having a designated hitter. And I know you like the idea of having the offense from a DH. And, well, give your thought process about the designated hitter.
I'm good on seeing pitchers bat. Randy.
You're done with that?
I'm done. How many pitchers, when they step into the box, are you thrilled that you get to watch that at bat? How many?
Maybe it depends. Like last night, I like to see if Gant gets the bunt down, and he did twice.
But are you really excited to watch a pitcher bat?
Yeah, because there's strategy involved.
Okay, see, I am not, because usually it's lackluster. Usually it's not something that provides entertainment for me. I know that you like to manage along. I think the fact that we don't have both the National League and the American League having the same construction of their teams and following the same set of rules is so dumb. I think it's one of the dumbest things in sports. I cannot believe that we're in 2021 and there hasn't been a universal DH or have the DH taken away. It's so, imagine if the NFC and the AFC said, oh, we're going to not kick an extra point or something. It would be outrageous to have the two conferences playing in different ways. So I just want something to be done where it's universal and everybody plays by the same set of rules. But I'm good on pitchers batting, and I know that you like the strategy part of it, but I also don't want pitchers out there trying to run the bases. I don't want a pitcher potentially getting hit by a pitch. If we want to protect pitchers, don't have them go up to bat.
Well, last night, you've got a situation where Gant has given you 5 innings, and the Cardinals, they need to decide whether or not they are going to get more innings out of their starter because their bullpen has been overworked, or are they going to get the bullpen into the game? You've got a 1-1 game, 1 out, Carpenter walks, Williams walks. And the question for Mike Schilt is, do I send up a pinch hitter and bring in Cabrera in the 6th inning, or do I have Gant sacrifice? Gant does bunt, and then Tommy Edman grounded out. So the game is still 1-1, and then in the very next inning, with Gant on the mound, by the way, Schwarber doubles homer run, Castro with a sac fly, and it's a 3-1 game as they head to the bottom of the 6th inning. Yesterday, former Major League manager Jim Riggleman, who was a coach for the Cardinals, he was the Cardinals minor league director and is a really accomplished Major League manager. He was on with BK and Ferrario and was asked about his thoughts with the designated hitter.
I hate that it looks like we're going to go to the DH in the National League eventually. To me, I hate the DH. And I could go on and on about it. It's not about, it's boring. The pitchers can't hit. They come up to the plate, and it's an ugly at bat. That's the least impactful part of the DH for me. The impactful part of having a DH or having the pitcher hit is that pitcher, he's out there pitching. He's up 4th next inning. Now, as a manager, I got to make a decision. He's struggling a little bit. Do I take him out? But if I do, he's up 4th. I don't really have a comfortable double switch I need to make. So, I'm going to double switch him out of the game. I'm taking a guy out of the game that I don't want to take out. But it's much more strategy. It's just a better game with the pitcher hitting. And I just hate that we're going to move to I think, a less exciting game when we have the DH. I know people, they want to see those sluggers and all that. But you know what? Baseball's an offensive and defensive game. Learn how to play a position and go play it or become a pinch hitter.
And I thought it was interesting in talking to managers over the years, Michelle, whether it's Tony or Whitey or Joe Torre or Riggleman or Sparky Anderson, to a person, everybody that I ever spoke to that managed in both leagues, and they're different because they're managers, but they all preferred managing in the National League.
And that is interesting. And I'm sure you have a preference for that type of baseball because that's what you grew up watching, and you watch baseball in St. Louis. So you are conditioned to love the strategy aspect of not having the DH. I think about it purely from an entertainment and consumption of the game standpoint. And I think about the average sports fan tuning into baseball and what would they rather see. And I think that pitchers batting is boring. Unless it's Adam Wainwright,
Right.
who sometimes shocks and delights.
We are a video game offensive society. That's one of the reasons that the NFL is succeeding like they are, because there's action, a lot of action and a lot of scoring. Now, last night, Mike Schilt had to think. That's one thing. Why have a manager if you have the DH? You don't really need one. You just, all he does is sit there, right, and decide, okay, the guy isn't going to go through the lineup for the third time, so I'm going to take him out. There isn't thought like Schilt had to deal with last night.
A lot of variables into that decision, clearly. The variables being, we haven't gotten a lot of length out of our starters. We got a guy that's pitching well. He's got plenty of pitches to go pitch the sixth, which we'll get to in a minute. He's already got a bunt down. We feel good about Tommy being able to take a good at bat. He gets it successfully. We got a base hit, 2-run lead. And then you can say, well, you go back out, and we had Cabby available for one. We're trying not to rely too much on our bullpen. But it wasn't a great matchup for Johnny to go back out, even though his stuff was good. Soto's the big at bat. He'd had good at bats against Bell and Schwarber. And the fact of the matter is, didn't get Soto. Bell 3-2 pitch didn't go our way. Walked him, and Schwarber put a swing on him as well. So, a lot of different reasons. Maybe you think about them hitting Zimmerman at some point in that, exchange. So it goes into it, but because we don't know if they're going to do it because Schwarber and Bell are new to their group and just got activated. So those are the reasons. Can't say they were the right reasons. I got to own it. Didn't feel like that was the best decision I made, and I got to be accountable for it. Didn't work out. Take responsibility fully.
Now, I will say this, because I have told you many times, my introduction to great baseball was Whitey Herzog, who was, and Jim Riggleman said, best baseball man I've ever been around. Whitey was always 2 innings ahead of the opposition. He made you think as a fan. Mm-hmm. And obviously it was an extraordinarily entertaining style of baseball, even though they had the pitcher hitting. 100% of the texts that we have want the universal DH.
Right now?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So even in a National League town,
that surprises me, because I thought more people would be on your side here than mine.
Yeah. From the 636, the pitcher batting is just so boring. End of story. Batting is part of the game. It's that simple. You don't excuse a player from doing something that all the other players are required to do. From the 314, if MLB wants to appeal to a wider and younger audience, a universal DH does make a lot of sense. And this is the only league in the world where the pitcher hits. Every place internationally, every minor league, they do have the DH.
When I think about stuff like this, Randy, I think about pre-pandemic, the last time that I was at a baseball game and I was sitting in the press box and I was in that front row and you can look down into the seats in front of you. Everybody's on their phone. No one's even looking at the game. Everyone has got their face buried in their phone. And I can promise you that if there was going to be something that was going to take their eyes away from their phone and onto the game to care more about what's happening on the field, it's not going to be a pitcher batting.
Well, they aren't watching the number 4 hitter either.
But I'm just saying, I think more entertainment, more offense, more excitement. I don't know. There's just nothing entertaining about a pitcher batting to me. And I don't even think most of them care.
And I don't find anything entertaining about a walk. So if a number 3 hitter takes a walk, I'm not entertained by that either. So there are a lot of problems that baseball has to deal with.
That's true.
In addition to whether or not the pitcher hits.
It just kind of feels like, okay, let's get this over with when the pitcher comes up in a lot of scenarios.
And that's why, especially if you have guys that are capable of bunting like John Gant, that it makes it a good part of the game. Because if Edman does wind up getting the hit last night, then it's a great move on the part of Mike Schilt, and the Cardinals probably win the game. Mm-hmm. But obviously they didn't. We did get one pitcher one, but it's for different reasons. In my opinion, pitchers need to hit for a couple of reasons. You want to hit a batter, then you should have to stand in the batter's box. And maybe as a pitcher, you can see something when you're in the batter's box that could help your other hitters. And if you don't want to run the bases because you're scared of getting hurt, go play golf.
That's a good point.
You can do both.
I like the first part, though. If you're going to hit a batter, you should have to go in there, too.
Yeah, that horse is out of the barn. You can't hit anybody anymore. That's Michelle. I'm Randy, and that's today's Fresh Take on 101 ESPN. Coming up, How fortunate are the Cardinals and the Blues to have harmony and stability in their front offices? One pro sports organization is showing us why that's important. That's next on 101 ESPN.
We're right back to the Carricker and Smallman podcast on 101 ESPN.
Brown and Crouppen, 222-2222.
This is Dan McLaughlin, and I want to tell you about my friends at Saliga Heating and Cooling, an independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer. They've been the experts in St. Louis for nearly a century. Their focus is customer satisfaction, and their priority is keeping you comfortable. Call them today to take advantage of rebates and special financing on a new American Standard system. 314-481-7333. Visit SaligaHeatingandCooling.com. Subject to credit approval. See dealer for details.
Spring has sprung. Time to make an investment in your home. An investment that will increase the value of your home and improve the overall look and feel. Universal Windows Direct's unique Unishield design windows can save you money and will make spring cleaning super easy for years to come. Call now to schedule your personal estimate and take advantage of buy one window, get one window free. Plus, 0 payments and 0 interest for 2 years. Call 314-696-5909 or click now at universalwindowsdirect.com.
Stalter back with my guy, Stewie. Stewie, did I hear this right? Are you using the bagel loan on purchases now? Are you crazy?
That's right, Anthony. We're going to bring the bagel loan to purchases. We're changing the playing field. If you're going to finance more than $200,000, folks, no fees.
Michelle John Mozeliak took over the reins of the Cardinals as their general manager and eventually president of baseball operations in 2008. Doug Armstrong with the Blues in 2010, and they have maintained stability with their coaches or managers. Ken Hitchcock was here for a long time. Berube has been here for a long time. And with the Cardinals, obviously, it was La Russa and then Matheny for 5 years, and now Mike Schilt. And there's an amazing and troubling story, if you're an Eagles fan, story up at The Athletic about the dysfunction in the Eagles front office and how that causes them to lose. And part of it is the owner. We're lucky here in that Tom Stillman with the Blues, Bill DeWitt Jr. with the Cardinals, they are involved with the team, but they aren't meddling in day-to-day operations. They aren't showing up at batting practice or, in the case of Tom Stillman, at practice and leaving their imprint on the way the team plays. But according to this story in The Athletic, Jeffrey Lurie, the owner of the Philadelphia Eagles, had meetings every Tuesday with his head coach, Doug Peterson, is at practice almost every day, and has a dramatic effect not only on who plays for the team, but actually what kind of plays are being called and the way the Eagles play the game.
Yeah, it's a very delicate balance within a professional sports organization because you want everyone to be working in concert with one another. But that's hard when sometimes a head coach or a GM is hired at a different time, or maybe the head coach or the GM is viewed upon more favorably by the owner, which is what it seems like here. But we've seen that many times, Randy, especially when the Rams were in town, where a GM would have one agenda and the head coach would have the other agenda, and maybe one of those two parties had final say. And that's always difficult because you need to be working together. And it seems like here it was Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman on one side and Doug Peterson on the other. You mentioned those Tuesday meetings where the two of them would grill Doug Peterson on every decision that he would make. And just even reading this article, it's exhausting for me to even read it. I can't imagine being the head coach in that situation where you don't have enough rope or rein to really do what you want to do.
And they have a problem similar to what the Cardinals had that caused Walt Jocketty to get fired. Walt Jocketty did not get along with Jeff Luhnow. Walt was not an analytics guy. Jeff Luhnow brought in to basically start the analytics movement in sports in 2003. And because, for lack of a better term, Walt didn't play well with others, specifically Jeff Luhnow, he was let go, and somebody who was more amenable to the analytics, Mo, was promoted and has had the job ever since for 13 years. In Philadelphia, it's a similar, although not identical situation, in that the analytics people were not on the same page as the coach. And I really think, and tell me if you read into it the same way, the reason Doug Peterson is gone is because he wasn't willing to play the game with analytics people that he didn't have a lot of respect for.
Yeah, that's a huge part of it. Another thing that I noted was it constantly seemed like Doug Peterson was being beaten down by Lori and Roseman with this second guessing. There was a couple times within the article where they talked about how he would have to go in and defend his coaching staff, most notably Frank Reich, and how early on they didn't think he was doing a good job, and Doug Peterson would have to fight for him. And then all of a sudden Frank Reich leaves. Carson Wentz has this massive regression, and then everyone's pointing to his connection with Frank Reich, saying, well, he was the one that really helped Carson along. He helped with his development, and without having him there, he's not going to have that success. So if I'm Doug Peterson in that situation, I'm constantly trying to fight for something that you don't want, and then I'm proven right, and now I have to clean up the mess. What kind of coach would want to be in that scenario?
And he saved Reich after the 2016 season, but then after 2019, he tried to save his offensive coordinator and receivers coach. He went to the front office and said, no, these guys are fine. I want these guys here. And they were fired by the front office within 24 hours. So he lost complete control over his coaching staff, too. And once again, let's localize this. I can't imagine a scenario in which Craig Berube or Mike Schilt would have people that they don't want on their coaching staff. Now, maybe they don't make the final decision, but if there's somebody that they don't want on their coaching staff, they aren't going to be stuck with those guys like Peterson was in Philadelphia.
That tension and toxicity bleeds through everything, too. When there's tension if you're the coach, the head coach, and you're trying to do something one way, and this is the plan that you're trying to implement, and you're getting pushback from people who are supposed to be pulling the rope the same way, that's going to bleed into everything that you do. Well, it kind of reminds me a little bit of when, and obviously the situation is completely different, but when you had Jeff Albert and Mark Budaska, you had two guys within the organization that had conflicting ideologies, and the Cardinals essentially said, well, this is what we're going to do. We're going to double down on this, because they had a situation where players were either falling on one side of the coin or the other, where players were going to Buda for assistance and not necessarily buying into the Jeff Albert ideas. And the Cardinals said, we need one common thread throughout all of this to avoid a situation like this. Now, the question remains whether they chose right, but I think that they identified the fact that they need harmony, or they at least need one consistent method of teaching throughout the organization.
And that goes back to the most consistent and best organizations in sports. The Dodgers have had a ton of stability, and you don't know what bubbles under the surface, but people have been around there. Andrew Friedman's been their GM. Ned Coletti was their GM for a long time before that. Don Mattingly was their manager for a long time. Now Roberts has been their manager for a long time. You look at the San Antonio Spurs with Popovich. You look at the Patriots with Belichick. You look at the Tampa Bay Lightning with John Cooper. And they when Steve Yzerman left, they promoted from within to hire their new general manager. Stability plays such a role in any organization. And in sports, I think it's particularly important. And you can tell the good organizations from the bad ones because there's so much turnover. The fact that the Eagles fired Andy Reid and now they're going to be on their third coach since him in the last 8 years tells you all you need to know.
I think now they're in a better spot, but the Cleveland Browns were always the best example of that. Unbelievable turnover. The Rams were the best example of that. How many offensive coordinators did Sam Bradford have during his tenure? It was constant turnover. You can't ever expect someone to be able to thrive when they're having to break everything down and start over every few years. So that's really difficult. But the person you were mentioning earlier when it came to the analytics side of things is Alec Hallaby. He's the Eagles Vice President of Football Operations and Strategy. And he's an Ivy League guy, young executive, and he has a personal connection to Lori because Julian Lori, Jeffrey's son, is a fellow Harvard grad with Hallaby, and one day Julian is going to take over the business. So he has that connection and obviously is vouching for him. And this guy seems very polarizing, according to this piece at The Athletic. A lot of people think that he's brilliant. Other people do not. And I loved this line, Randy. It says, the blurriness of Hallaby's influence on the final decision makers created rifts throughout the organization and contributed to the iciness between departments. So people don't really know exactly what his role is, but they know that he's peddling a lot of influence when it comes to major decisions. And that has to be confusing if you don't know why he has the influence that he does and you're working over here trying to do your job.
And now they have a puppet, Nick Sirianni, as a head coach who's got virtually no experience, didn't even interview for another job. And Lurie and Hallaby, the analytics guys, are going to be able to hold sway over what happens. And I kind of have a feeling that it's not going to work.
Kind of have that feeling, yes. Yeah. But if I'm looking at this, and this was a very interesting and detailed article, it really chronicles everything from the beginning of Doug Peterson's reign, all of the Carson Wentz stuff. But Howie Roseman was so in on Carson Wentz. He was so in on him. In this piece in prior, he had described not having Carson Wentz there as like not having a finger on your hand. It's something that you're so comfortable and used to. And it seems like a lot of the things that Howie Roseman and Jeff Lurie were down on Doug Peterson for, they were wrong about. It seems like Doug Peterson was right about a lot of this stuff, whether it was Frank Reich or Carson Wentz or the way that he was approaching building the team. And obviously, if they're in that position, they're not going to say, yeah, he was right. Maybe Doug Peterson was right and we were wrong. They're going to say, well, it's because we didn't have him going the way that we wanted to go. So I think when you don't self-assess and you don't take responsibility for your role in the failures of the organization and you double down and only have yes men around you, yes men and women who are going to be an echo chamber, that's not good.
And it is mentioned, by the way, in the piece that people around the league and people within the building are shocked that the Eagles did win that Super Bowl.
Yes.
It was just serendipity and everything fell together at once for them. But it was just a lucky year that they had when they wound up winning the Super Bowl.
We have a text, Randy, from the 314. The Steelers have had 3 head coaches in like 50 years.
Yeah, right. There's another perfect example of how to do things the right way. And it all starts with ownership. One of the things about sports, and specifically the NFL, is that even if you are completely inept, like Dan Snyder or like Jimmy Haslam has been in Cleveland, you still make a ton of money. So you can think that you're doing a good job because you're making money, when in fact, like what appears to be happening in Philadelphia, you have no clue. But you still are going to make a bunch of money.
And everyone's managing up. So no one around you is going to tell you you're the problem. You think anyone in Dallas is going to look at Jerry Jones in the face and say, you're the problem?
No.
You're the reason why this team can't win a Super Bowl championship again? No, of course not, because he's going to fire them. So everyone is afraid to tell the head of the operation that they're the reason why. And it sounds like Jeffrey Lurie is a really good guy, but that he loves football and he's so invested in this and that he's perhaps too. But no one is going to tell him that he might be the problem.
That was Mr. Bidwell's problem here in St. Louis. He wanted to win. He just didn't know how to and thought he was a football guy. And that's a real problem when you have an owner that thinks he's a football guy that isn't.
Just find someone that you trust and take a step back.
Shouldn't be that hard, but it is for these guys. That's Michelle. I'm Randy. Coming up, The Fight on 101 ESPN.
We're right back to the Carricker and Smallman podcast on 101 ESPN. Welcome to The Fight on Carricker and Smallman. In the red corner, Average Joe Listener. And in the blue corner, the undisputed king of morning drive. Please welcome Randy Carricker.
Welcome back to Carricker and Smallman here on 101 ESPN. It's 8:36, so it's time for The Fight. And we're welcoming in Kurt again as our fighter today. If you listened yesterday, you know there was a bit of a discrepancy with the tiebreaker question. Kurt got it correct. Randy said that the answer was not correct. We couldn't find it online. It was kind of a blurry situation. So Kurt is coming back today to defend his title that we gave him yesterday, and he's one step closer to the Hall of Fame. How you doing, Kurt?
I'm doing good. How are you, Michelle?
We are doing great. Are you ready to go?
I am.
Awesome. Question number 1. David Perron is going to join us next at 8:45. You're going to want to tune into that. Perron began his NHL career with the Blues in the 2007-2008 season. What team did the Blues trade Perron to in July of 2013? Was it the Pittsburgh Penguins, the Edmonton Oilers, or the Anaheim Ducks?
The Pittsburgh Penguins.
Who was the MVP of the 1982 World Series when the Cardinals defeated the Brewers 4-3? Was it Bruce Sutter, Darryl Porter, or Ozzie Smith?
It was Darryl Porter.
All right, Kurt. Steph Curry moved into first place for the Warriors last night as their all-time points leader with 17,818 points. Who did he pass for this position? Was it Rick Barry, Wilt Chamberlain, or Chris Mullin?
Chris Mullin.
And who started the most games for the Cardinals last year in the DH role? Was it Matt Carpenter, Brad Miller, or Rangel Ravello?
Brad Miller.
All right, we're going to check our score here. Randy's on his way back in. Yeah, Emily, I know you researched this last night. Were you able to determine the tiebreaker question? It was how many times did the football Cardinals make the postseason, correct?
Yes. It was the playoffs.
The playoffs. And so
how many playoff appearances?
Playoff appearances.
Yes.
And we couldn't determine about the playoff bowl, right?
I was looking on NFL.com. I was looking on Pro Football Hall of Fame. I couldn't find it anywhere.
Yep. 70.
Sorry about that.
4, 75, 82 for future reference.
I just couldn't find if, and I'm not saying you're wrong, I couldn't find if the playoff bowl was considered the playoffs.
Well, they didn't even play in it that year, though.
Yes, they did.
Well, they don't have it listed. But no, if you don't have a chance to win a championship, it's not the playoffs, right?
It's blurry. It's muddy. So that's why Kurt is back. Randy, say what's up to Kurt again.
Kurt, welcome back. Good to have you with us.
How you doing, Randy? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Randy. As you know, David Perron is joining us next, 8:45 a.m. Be sure to tune in, everyone. David Perron began his NHL career with the Blues in the 2007-2008 season. What team did the Blues trade Perron to in July of 2013?
They traded him to the Edmonton Oilers.
Who was the MVP of the 1982 World Series when the Cardinals defeated the Brewers 4-3?
Colonial bread, it's the MVP with minerals, vitamins, and protein. Darryl Porter was doing bread commercials after winning the World Series MVP. Get it? Minerals, vitamins, and protein, MVP?
I got it.
Someone on the text line said you were going to talk about that.
You got it, yeah.
Randy,
Darryl Porter.
Are you going to be singing that all day now?
No, I'm still dollop.
Oh, you were still on a dollop of
Do a
Daisy?
dollop, do a dollop, yeah.
No scoop, there it is.
Would you ever eat a dollop or put a dollop of sour cream on a piece of bread?
I would not.
I wouldn't either.
No.
But we spread mayo on bread.
It's true. And ranch.
And ranch. All sorts of mustard. Why not sour cream?
Now, do I do a dollop on some nachos? Absolutely.
You better believe it. Maybe 2 dollops if we're getting crazy. Randy, Steph Curry moved into first place for the Warriors last night as their all-time points leader with 17,818 points. Who did he pass for this position?
He passed somebody who was even more prolific off the court than on the court, Wilt Chamberlain, who, by all accounts, lied with 20,000 women, he claimed.
Has anyone ever done the math on that?
Yes, and it was like multiples a day.
For how long of a time span?
Like his entire life. Yeah. Very impressive.
Busy guy. And
Yeah.
all these points, too? Busy guy.
And who started the most games for the Cardinals last year in the DH role?
Designated hitter. Let's see. You had Edmund at third. You had Wong at second. So I am going to say that it was Marp.
Okay. Yesterday was a little fuzzy. Today, leave no question. Emily, ring the bell.
The winner and still champion of the fight, Randy Carricker. The Fight, sponsored by Ryan Kelly and HeroLoan.com. Check out how they help veterans and service members at the new and improved HeroLoan.com.
Sorry, Kurt. Randy beat you 3-2. It was a close one, but Randy ended up on top. So the Blues did trade David Perron to the Edmonton Oilers in July of 2013. Darryl Porter was the MVP of the 1982 World Series when the Cardinals defeated the Blues. Steph Curry did pass Wilt Chamberlain last night as the Warriors' all-time points leader. Wilt Chamberlain was 17,783 points. And the player who started the most games for the Cardinals in the DH role last year was Brad Miller with 32.
Oh, forgettable.
Yes, clearly.
How could you forget Brad Miller?
Kurt, thanks so much for listening. Thanks for playing.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
You too. Thank you, Kurt. We appreciate it. It's Carricker and Smallman on 101 ESPN. Thanks to Emily as well.
Randy, real quick, from the 314, someone said I did the math a while back on Wilt Chamberlain. It was something like 3.5 per day from the time he was 15 years old.
See, that's pretty good. Now,
3.5.
And he says that, well, he wrote in his book that he slept with 20,000 women. So I'm thinking that if he had 10 at a time, still that each one individual counts.
Do you think he kept a tally?
There's no way, because
like a journal of sorts, a diary maybe of his exploits.
He may have.
Pretty
impressive stat, but better than the points.
If you're getting, well, it's more than the points. Yeah. If you're getting close to, I don't even know what the number is.
And keep in mind that
you'd keep a list.
You should. You should, yeah, keep a list.
You think you would keep a list? Your doctor's going to ask you.
And he got 2 points for each basket that he made.
Wow.
So look at it that way. Maybe he's counting it that way.
Yeah, maybe he's basketball scoring these interactions.
Could be. It's possible.
It's a busy guy. Wow.
Yeah. Do we have David Perron next or at 9?
Next,
David Perron, Blues Forward, with us, his weekly visit on Carricker and Smallman on 101 ESPN.
We're right back to the Carricker and Smallman podcast on 101 ESPN.
The plan was for the Blues to play in Minnesota last night and extend their winning streak to 4 games. That game postponed because of the issues that they're dealing with in the Twin Cities. It's been postponed until May 12th. So now the Blues will take on Colorado tomorrow night at Enterprise Center and try to extend their winning streak against the Avalanche. David Perron joins us on the Brown and Crouppen Celebrity Line on 101 ESPN, as he does every week, with Randy Carricker and Michelle Smallman. David, great to have you with us. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing well. How about you?
David, we're doing great. Take us back to yesterday. Like Randy mentioned, you guys are getting ready to play the game. You find out a couple hours before that it's postponed. You've had this happen a few times this season, but what's that like on a game day to find out that you're not going to play the game?
Yeah, well, it's not ideal, obviously, because we were there. It kind of changes our plans. We've had 5 cancellations, I think, this year, with like 3 with COVID. 1 with LA. When we were in Los Angeles, they were stuck in Denver with some weather issues. And then obviously this one is another different topic. I was just scrolling Twitter and obviously with the trade deadline, all that stuff happening. And kind of saw that I think the baseball game was going to probably get canceled. So I figured that once they do one sport, all of them jump in together. And we understand the situation and they have to do what they have to do.
David, you mentioned you're scrolling Twitter because of the trade deadline, which I find so interesting. So is this something that you monitor? Do you and your teammates talk about the trade deadline, or is it more you're going to look at it yourself and wait and see what happens?
Yeah, we do a little bit at times. Depending. Obviously, it was pretty interesting for our team the way the last several weeks had been going, and obviously our last week putting up some good hockey. We felt like at times we were playing really good hockey. We weren't getting the result. I know I talked about it with you guys several times, but it was nice. Our last week was a great feeling in our locker room, and obviously the end result is that we didn't trade anyone away, and that's a good feeling. It's a good confidence boost, I think, for our group, and we're hoping to be able to respond to Army's basically decision to stand pat and keep giving him more confidence with our play. And as long as we keep improving, I think he's going to feel like he's done the right decision, and we have to prove that for him.
David, Army seems to listen to you guys, and when you tell him, hey, look, we've got a chance to do something pretty special here, he will appeal to what you guys want. How important is that from a player's perspective, especially somebody who has been traded in the past, when the GM says, okay, we're going to stand pat, and I'm doing it for you guys because I trust you?
Yeah, I mean, Army's great. Obviously, he's talked to some guys, not about necessarily like, that's his job, so he doesn't need to talk to anyone about his job, but just kind of feeling out over the last, the whole season he does that anyway, but again, like, you never know, like, what the offers can be with teams. Some of our players are pretty valuable for us and for the league. If he would have maybe blown away by something, then maybe he has to do it. Like, I'm sure there's a tipping point for almost everything, and certainly it didn't seem like he felt like he was going to get to that point, and we're obviously really happy about that. As teammates and everything, we really believe in each other. I saw a quote about Justin Falk saying, like, basically our belief never really went away, and it's extremely true. We know how good we can be, and getting Colton Parayko back as he keeps getting up to speed and all that will be a key point to our performance.
I've always felt that from you, David. Every time we've talked to you, you've instilled that confidence in us and our listeners about how good the team could be. You mentioned the conversation that we had last week. It's kind of crazy how different things can be in a week, but you were talking about how things were going to turn around, and you mentioned that the team had been doing all the right things and that excuse me, you guys just had to stick together, and the tide seems to turn. You've won 3 games in a row now. So did you just do the same things and things eventually fell your way, or was there any changes that the team made that allowed you to go on this win streak?
Yeah, it's a little bit of both, but we just stuck with it. One good point, like I love like seeing the emotion of Ryan O'Reilly on the overtime goal. Like, He's scoring a lot of goals for us this year, and he's done that in the past. To see the emotion that he brought for the overtime goal, like that was great to see. I think it kind of shows how important this win was for us. And like we're not going to go away, and we're far from the process to be over. Like we got to keep this thing going, and that doesn't mean we're going to win tomorrow. But if we don't win tomorrow, then we got to get right back on the horse and put up some great performances. We have a really important game coming up in Arizona on the weekend. And obviously, not just Arizona, they're all going to be extremely important. And we're looking forward to it. Like the line is so close to being a non-playoff team and being a really good team in this league. And we kind of wandered like a little bit around for a couple weeks there. But I'm glad that it seems like we're starting to find our game at the right time. That was kind of the hope and the belief that when we get guys back and we get settled with our group, that we're a really solid team in this league. And hopefully we get in, we keep doing some good stuff, and I wouldn't want to be any other teams in the league saying, oh, we got to play St. Louis in the first round, for example. After everything we went through, some of the injuries, all that, and finally playing good hockey going into playoffs, that's obviously our hope, and we want to do that.
David Perron with us on 101 ESPN. David, Jordan Binnington had that comment last week, we're coming. How much of a leader is he for your team?
Yeah, I mean, everyone's. We love when Benner does something like that. He's one of my. I just love that personally. It's not just a leadership part or not. I just like when guys kind of stick their head a little bit out more than the usual quote. And obviously, Benner's done that before, has responded with great performance, and it's really good to see that. Obviously, like. That game that he played against Vegas was key for us to start turning this around, putting in result. And what was he had like 50 saves or something? He was unbelievable, and we know that from him. We see it in practice. He's not an easy goalie to score, and he competes. He works hard every practice, and it's great to see.
And it's interesting when you have a goalie that is that competitive. I know there are some goalies in practice, it doesn't bother them if they allow a goal in practice, but to have a guy that is that competitive really does make a difference for you, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, and it's up to us players to keep pushing them to in practice to make sure that we do take those hard shots, and we make sure that we try to score on them every single time. You start building that basically that battle in practice. I've kind of had that going with Husso a little bit recently, and it's great. You see how he's raising his level every single practice, and he's got that smile when he makes a nice save on you, and he knows that you thought you were going to score on that shot, but you saved you. So and vice versa. I give it to him if I score a goal. That just many ways like that. I think that within each other, like we can all push each other to keep getting better. And the guys have done a good job. We've responded, and again, like to go back to Justin Falk's point, it's never over, and we're only 3 games into this. We're gonna have to do it for 15 more games here.
David, you mentioned it a little bit earlier, but what's it been like to have Colton Parayko back out on the ice? I imagine having him there brings an infusion of energy to the team.
Yeah. Just to see his name on the board, really, for the other team, the presence that he brings, is how smart he is defensively, like his body position, the way he puts his stick in the lane, all that stuff takes passes away. So yeah, it's a major boost for us, and we're extremely excited. And I'm sure that's a big part of the reason why we started having good performances, and now we're starting to play even better, but we also get the result, and I'm sure that's a big part of it.
Hey, David, one more thing from me. Are you scoreboard watching, like when the Coyotes are playing last night or the Sharks are playing? Are you aware of what's going on in their games, or do you wake up in the morning? How does that work?
I'm not gonna lie. I hate scoreboard watching because growing up, I always felt like my dad would talk about it and say like that he never liked when, let's say, other minor hockey coaches would go, like we would go to a minor hockey tournament, and other coaches would be looking, if this team wins, that team loses, then we don't get to play this one. My dad's like, who cares? If we win the tournament, we have to beat them all anyway. And I kind of grew up with that mentality, and that's how I see it. If we take care of our games, we'll be fine. And if we don't, somehow, some way, the scoreboard and outside the town will hurt us. And I'm aware still that we've gotten some help, but I still believe deep down, because of what I just said, that if we just take care of our games, we'll be fine.
David Perron, always good to hear your voice. Thanks so much for taking some time with us this morning. Go get them against Colorado tomorrow, and we'll talk again next week.
Yeah, sounds good. Talk to you next week. I appreciate it.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you, David. That's Blues winger David Perron with us on 101 ESPN. Always gives us a great little tidbit, doesn't he? Or two?
He does. He's a great chat every week, but I love that thought process that his dad instilled in him, because it is so true. If you handle your business and do what you need to do, it doesn't really matter what anyone else is doing around you. Just focus on the task at hand.
And that's what the Blues need to do. That's what the Cardinals need to do. And tell you what, look at this team. How lucky are the Cardinals that Yadier Molina is back in the fold?
I keep thinking that. There are early trends, and there might be a different conversation at the end of the year, but one of the early thoughts that I keep having when I watch these games is, where would this team be without Yadier Molina?
That's next on 101 ESPN.
We're right back to the Carricker and Smallman podcast on 101 ESPN.
And the 2-2, he gives it a ride. Into right center. Goodbye. Home run.
Yadier Molina with another home run and another big moment for the Cardinals. And during the offseason, he talked about how the Angels had interest, the Padres, the Mets, the Yankees, and he landed back in St. Louis. And Michelle, I know that as you watch this all unfold early in the season, you do think about, man, what would this team be like if Yadier Molina was not a member of the Cardinals right now?
Emily pulled some great stats for us. He's leading the National League in so many, among catchers, in so many different offensive categories. And there's so much conversation this offseason about whether or not it benefited the Cardinals to bring back Yadier Molina. And he's coming up clutch in so many situations, whether it's defensively, like always, or offensively for the team. But when I look at the struggles of the outfield, Randy, I'm thinking, what if you also had a catcher who wasn't as seasoned, not only in the lineup, but not guiding or calling games in the same manner in which Yadi does? It just seems like such a no-brainer now that we're watching him flourish again, that he's back with the team. It's kind of hard to believe that it ever got to a point of almost no return, that he would have gone somewhere else, because this team would be completely different without him.
They're pretty lucky. He leads the team with 12 hits. That also leads NL catchers. He's first on the team with a couple of doubles. That's fourth among catchers. Second on the Cardinals with 2 home runs. That's tied for first among National League catchers. Second with 8 RBIs on the Cardinals. That's first among National League catchers. He leads the Cardinals with a .353 batting average. That leads all NL catchers. .410 on base, second among NL catchers, and that leads the Cardinals. A .588 slug. He's playing on a team with Nolan Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt and leads the team in slugging. And
he's hitting fourth.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
You know?
And his 998, a 998 OPS leads the team. Manager Mike Schilt on his catcher's offense.
Look, it's a tip of the hat, a testament to a lot of things for Yachty. He's a unique player on a lot of areas. And to your point, to speak about another area, we talk about his leadership, rightfully so, his defense, rightfully so, just his overall presence. But now we're talking about his presence in the lineup, and this guy's always been a productive type hitter. And I say this a lot, and it's even more important even now in more of a modern type game. But Yachty's got something for about any situation, on the baseball field. He's got something he can compete with, and he's got an awareness of when and how to use it, and which makes him a productive at bat. What he's doing now, he's getting a little bit more in the zone and letting that good swing he's got, nice stroke he's got working. So he's got, his walks are up. He's getting more pitches to handle, and he's smoking them. So he's taking great at bats.
And Michelle, he's doing this, and tonight he's going to catch his 2000th career game.
He's 38. It's unbelievable. Think about the wear and tear that his body has endured.
Just his knees.
Just his knees.
Yeah.
Randy, when I bend down to pick something up, my knees are cracking. I cannot believe what Yadier Molina's body feels on a daily basis.
When I squat down like that, I can't get back up. I need somebody to help me.
And Yachty is squatting down like that. How many games?
This will be 2,000 career games caught.
2,000 career games caught. Think about all of the training that's involved in that, all of the spring training games. It's unbelievable. And to think that he can pop up with a quickness. Still, he has not lost a step. It's crazy.
He's a physical freak. He really is. But he also is somebody that the Cardinals need at this moment, because they're getting nothing out of their outfield, because they're getting virtually nothing out of Paul DeJong. Like you said, he's hitting fourth, and if he's not there to hit fourth, if it's Edman, Goldschmidt, Arenado, if it's not Yachty, who is it?
Who is it?
It's you wouldn't even call him a cleanup hitter. That number 4 guy would be a cleanup swinger, or maybe a cleanup guy at the plate, but you couldn't call him a hitter, right?
He would be someone who was batting at that time.
Yeah, and the fact that he's enough of a leader that Nolan Arenado is looking up to him, and Nolan Arenado has always looked at him as a kind of a mythical figure, and now he's trying to catch up to what Yachty does in terms of work ethic. He makes everybody around him better just because of the way he goes about his business. And again, if you don't have that in St. Louis this year, how much different is your team?
And what if he was doing it with another team?
Mm-hmm.
What if the Cardinals and Yachty didn't come to an agreement and he ends up going somewhere else and he's performing the way that he is right now, and the Cardinals aren't getting as much production out of that position? Imagine how Cardinals fans would feel.
Well, and think about this. If the Padres, everything else was the same, but they lose Tatis and they can just plug in that offense and not have Tatis, how much better off are they?
It's a good point. But just to circle back, though, to what he brings to this team, we know what he does as a catcher. We obviously know everything that Yachty is capable of. But to have Nolan Arenado, who, by all accounts, before he came to St. Louis, any person that we talked to, all they talked about was his work ethic and how much he loves baseball and what he would bring to the Cardinals. Not necessarily even considering that person, and maybe more so, already exists with the Cardinals, that he just plays a different position. So if someone who is known for being a hard worker and known for loving baseball comes and is even impressed by how much Yachty works and how much Yachty loves baseball, I think that speaks volumes.
Do you think the Cardinals, and granted, there was a lot of loss suffered by baseball owners last year because of the pandemic, but do you think the Cardinals, when you look at the fact that they waited until the very end to re-sign him, and then he wound up taking about a 50% pay cut, I wonder if they value him financially, what he's really worth to them?
That's a great question, because what are we determining worth by?
Well,
just the on-field production.
Is he the most important guy in the organization?
Gosh, that is such a good question. And I think I might have to say yes.
I think he is.
I was leaning Arenado just because of the commitment and the duration of the contract. He's going to be here for a while, but there is no one that carries more influence or that has contributed more to this team and continues to than Yadier Molina.
Or means more to the fans, if opening day is any indication.
So that's such another excellent point by you, Randy. So when we were downtown for the game, you were there too, so you can speak to what happened inside the stadium. I was across the street at Ballpark Village because that's where we were broadcasting. And when they had all of the players getting off the trucks and everyone was giving the ovation, Nolan Arenado got a great ovation. Nothing compared to what Yadier Molina got. People went nuts when they saw Yadi get off the truck, and he just means so much to the fan base. He's a reason that people still buy tickets.
Yeah, and buy jerseys. He's still their number one selling jersey. And last year, and for the last 3 years, he made $20 million in each of those seasons. This year, he's making $9 million. And that's why I asked the question is, do the Cardinals value him financially? And obviously, they're in business. They were able to get him for $9 million. I don't have any problem with that, but if you do everything that we just talked about, if you put a circle around Yadier Molina, he is more valuable than anybody else they have.
He's the face of the franchise.
Yeah.
And I know that they're looking at the point in his career, and that's how they're determining the financial value of him. But as is always with Yadier Molina, it's very difficult to quantify what he means to the Cardinals and very difficult to quantify how good he is and all of the things that he brings to the team and all the little ways in which he helps them win on a night in and night out basis. It's crazy.
Yeah. By the way, somebody texts in, and this is a great text. If I ever would try to squat down to catch, somebody says, somebody get Randy a life alert button.
Yeah, I didn't want to go there, but I'm concerned, Randy, if you fall and you can't get up.
Yeah, that I need one of the buttons.
So what is this the thing you wear around your neck?
Yeah,
and
yep.
It just beeps very loudly if you fall and you can't get up?
No, it calls somebody and it has an ambulance sent to you.
We need you to get a life alert.
I wouldn't abuse it. And
That's good.
old people have abused them in the past.
What, they just want someone to come over and hang out?
Yep.
They're lonely?
Yep.
So they smash that life alert button.
I'm not a hypochondriac, but I got a cold and I need to go to the hospital. Life alert.
So this is strictly for falls.
Yeah. Or squatting down.
I got to tell you, it's incredible. I would love to know what he feels on a daily basis when he goes to squat. But looking at him, he seems so spry. I mean, it probably doesn't bother him at all. He's running 3 miles a day.
That's the thing. He's running 3 or 4 miles.
It's crazy.
He gets the COVID and he's running 4 miles a day.
Randy, he had a very delicate surgery and was walking out of the hospital. I mean, this guy he's on another level. He's not human.
That would have been a career ender for me.
All you need to know is whenever I bring that up, that I didn't even say what it was, and Randy's wincing. Anytime you even mention that one injury,
it exploded.
that he had,
ow! Every
guy in the room cringes. They can't even speak of it or think of it, and Yadi's walking around. He's fine.
Yep. Ball one. That's it. That is today's big thing on 101 ESPN. Next up, Michelle's turning red and laughing. It's great.
I don't know where to go from there.
You're killing me, Smalls. It's coming your way on 101 ESPN.
We're right back to the Carricker and Smallman podcast on 101 ESPN.
All right, it is time for...
You're killing me, Smalls.
Randy, we know that Hideki Matsuyama, he became the first Japanese golfer to win the Masters on Sunday. This is a huge deal. He is going to be a rock star in Japan. He already is, but now I was reading about the financial impact that this is going to have on his life from an endorsement standpoint in Japan, etc. But the fame hasn't gotten to him because he was spotted at the airport when he was leaving Georgia. Multiple fans saw him there. He was just chilling in the Atlanta airport, carrying around the green jacket. He had it draped over the seat next to him that he was sitting at while he was waiting to board his flight. And Randy, he was flying out commercial.
Isn't that great?
He just won the Masters, and he's flying home to Japan, and he's flying commercial.
And he was going to have to connect in Chicago, apparently, so that he could get a flight to Tokyo. Yeah, I don't think Tiger necessarily flies commercial when he goes home to Florida after winning a Masters.
How many of those big-name golfers are ever flying commercial?
It doesn't happen. And hasn't happened for years. So that was really cool to see him. Yeah, and I loved the photo with him with the green jacket, just draped over an airplane or an airport chair. Just, okay, well, hey, I got a green jacket. I'm on my phone checking things out.
He threw it over the chair like we would throw a jean jacket.
Yeah, it was unbelievable.
His Masters jacket hanging out there. I would have packed that away so tightly, I would have been guarding it with my life.
Yeah, and I know that golf is already big in Japan, but can you imagine what this is going to do for the sport there?
Incredible.
Yeah.
It's going to explode.
Yeah, they've got courses and they've got great driving ranges, but I would think that this will even enhance the popularity of the sport there.
Absolutely.
You're killing me, Smalls.
It's a big month, Randy, for Trevor Lawrence. We know he's likely the number 1 overall draft pick at the end of the month in the NFL draft, but he got married last weekend.
Oh, congratulations.
Congratulations to Trevor Lawrence, and Jaguar fans are already trying to get in on the action. This is something that the internet would do. Some Jaguar fans found he and his now wife Marissa's registry, and they raised about $10,000 and started purchasing gifts off of the registry for Trevor Lawrence. They bought a toaster, a vacuum cleaner, and they said any extra money that they had in the fund they were going to donate to charity on behalf of the new couple.
That's really nice.
Or the newly wedded couple, I should say. They've been together for a long time.
That's a good thought. He better wind up being good.
Isn't it weird, though, to think that Trevor Lawrence, who's going to make so much money, is registering for a toaster?
Yeah, but he's probably never had his own place and probably doesn't have a toaster, and you'd need to register, right? So,
I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
It just seems, I don't know. I think it's wild that he got married right before the draft. You'd think he had so much other stuff going on, but congratulations to them. But just to think about someone that is going to be such a superstar trying to go to Macy's or wherever and pick out a toaster seems bizarre to me.
We use the toaster every single day.
Do you?
Yeah.
A regular toaster?
Yep.
Every day?
Whether it's an English muffin or making sandwiches or something like that, every single day our toaster gets used.
I can't tell you the last time I took the toaster out.
Really?
Yeah. I'm not, trying to live a low-carb life, Randy.
Yeah, right. So.
But you know what I like to do is pop it in the oven, 350, just flip it around a little bit, get it out, make some avocado toast, something like that.
That's good. See, the toaster takes a lot less time than preheating an oven to 350.
Yeah, you're right. That's true. Do you have a toaster oven? Because some people I know...
We do not have one in the house. No.
Emily is nodding her head. A lot of people I know are out on toasters and on toaster ovens.
Yeah, we've had toaster ovens in the past, but no, we don't anymore.
And now I'm kind of curious. I kind of want to go to the registry and see which toaster Trevor Lawrence landed on, because if it's good enough for the number 1 overall draft pick, it should be good enough for us.
I can tell you, they don't make toasters like they used to.
What?
Your parents' toaster, man. I'll bet your parents' toaster they got for their wedding.
And so you're saying now toasters break easily?
Toasters might last 5 years, yeah. They aren't what they used to be.
My parents have had their toaster for a long time.
Yep.
What do you think that is? Is it the Apple plan here where every couple years it breaks down so you have to buy a new one?
I think so. And they used to make them out of metal. Now they make them out of plastic. They just aren't as good.
So do you have a vintage toaster?
No, ours is plastic, and it's going to need to be replaced here. It's missing the plastic dial thing.
The knob that you pop down?
So
where does that go? Because mine was missing that too. It's like, am I pushing it down so hard that the thing pops off? I don't know where it goes. How does it get lost?
Yeah, I'm the same way.
It's like socks.
Yes.
You throw them both in the wash. How does one get lost? I don't know.
That is so appropriate right now for me, because I have 2 separate socks sitting on top of my dresser, and I have no idea where their mates are.
I put my mismatched socks on the dresser too, because I think when I go to fold the laundry, I'll see the mate and then I'll pair it up, and then they're gone. Where did they go?
I played that game this morning.
Yep.
Did you find
Emily?
I found it. Yeah,
okay,
it took me a few minutes, but I'm wearing the socks now.
And you know what the worst part is sometimes I'll get rid of the sock. It'll be there for so long. I've cycled through maybe 2-3 loads of laundry. I'm like, well, I guess it's a goner. And then it pops up and you've already thrown the other one away.
Mm-hmm. We have as you know, a golden retriever that likes socks. So ours are somewhere. We just don't know where.
So just likes to hide the socks or chew them up?
No, she hides them. Yeah. And eventually we'll find him.
Dogs are so weird with stuff like that. My dog, I give him a treat every day before I leave, and he does this thing where he'll eat half of it and hide the other half. And then when I come home, he goes and scurries and finds it and eats it. I'm
Treats
like,
himself.
Thank you.
I don't need to give you one.
But the patience that it takes for him to not eat the whole thing is outrageous.